Hey, I'm watching this thing. It's played out over the weekend. Glenn Greenwald doing, great reporting out of Hong Kong on a story that had been given to the Washington Post over a month ago, by this employee of Bose, Alan Hamilton. And, I literally over a month ago, he gave it to them and they said, let's check with the government. We'll get back with you. Which, of course, immediately put the NSA spooks on his trail, thus off to Hong Kong he goes. Anyhow, I want my boring, predictable, and responsible career bureaucrats, government employees, back in charge of national security. Everybody's going all hysterical about, this is the end of America. Oh, it's a national security step. Blah, blah. I think there's, frankly, a bigger issue here. I want people who put in their 40 years as career government workers at a modest salary and retire with health care and a decent pension in charge of national security. People who are committed to a job and a career rather than being committed to a for-profit corporation, a quick buck, and a townhouse in Hawaii. People who are independent of administrations. They watch them come and go. Who are independent of politics and who are independent of private interests. On Sunday, we learned the identity of the NSA leaker who provided The Guardian and the Washington Post with information regarding the most far-reaching surveillance programs known to the public. His name is Edward Snowden, and he's an employee of the defense contractor Booz Allen Hamilton. The company confirmed his employment in a press release yesterday afternoon, which raises the question, what the hell is a defense? What the hell is a private company doing with all these secrets? There was once a time before Reagan put us on privatization steroids when our national security workers were civil service government employees and thus answerable to we the people. They had powers of surveillance, yes, and some, just like the fictitious James Bond, even had a license to kill. But they were public servants, beholden to our democratic institutions and subject to the scrutiny and oversight of both Congress and the courts. However, ever since Reagan, our political class has been obsessed with the idea that since government can't do anything right, private companies should take the reins over most of our commons, even in this case, the commons of our national security. And that's resulted in an entire industry of companies like Booz Allen Hamilton, where Snowden worked, reaping billions and billions in profits every year to operate, lobby for, and even protect in the press an ever-expanding and ever more profitable national security industry. Just think about this. This is from the New York Times today. Quote, Booz Allen earned $1.3 billion, 23% of the company's total revenue from intelligence work during its most recent fiscal year. End of quote. Its CEO, Ralph W. Schrader, took home $3.5 million in compensation in 2011. More than half of that coming from bonuses and other forms of non-salary compensation, and thus subject to very low Mitt Romney-level taxes. Booz Allen Hamilton, however, is just one part of a massive military-industrial security complex. In fact, according to Salon's Tim Shorrock, about 70% of our national intelligence budget is spent on the private sector. Shadowy corporations like Neros, a subsection of Boeing, and Palantir Technologies have received lucrative contracts to develop and operate the technologies of the surveillance state. Palantir's data mining software is reportedly crucial to the NSA's PRISM program. And whistleblower Bill Binney told Tim Shorrock that, quote, they, Neros, probably pick up 60 to 80% of the data going over the U.S. network, end quote. I mean, this I think is the genuine outrage. Unlike government bureaucrats, these private companies and their CEOs, they don't answer to you or me. They answer to the profit motive and their shareholders. In comments to the New York Times, Stuart A. Baker, who worked as a general counsel to the NSA back in the 1990s, spoke of the danger of such a lack of democratic accountability. He wrote, quote, "Inside the government, there are structures designed to make sure that people understand that they can raise concerns about the lawfulness of particular activities in a variety of established channels. You can go to the Inspector General, you can go to the intelligence committees, and you don't have to pierce the veil of secrecy to get high-level attention to your concerns without exposing national secrets." As he noted, that's inside the government. But outside the government? Here's the next sentence of that paragraph of his testimony. "It's a little less obvious to employees at a contractor." In other words, for employees of companies like Booz Allen Hamilton, there's pressure not to do what's right, but to do what's profitable to keep the government contract. Often that's the same thing, but as Snowden and Ellsberg and others have pointed out, sometimes it's not. And we shouldn't be taking the chance. Now, in their defense, the corporations that form the backbone of the surveillance state are doing exactly what corporations are supposed to do. They make money to boost dividends and shareholder profits and shareholder dividends. In this case, their profits just happen to be dependent on lobbying for more and larger invasive surveillance programs like PRISM, passing out millions to shareholders and CEOs, and paying low-level guys like Snowden, whose only degree was a GED high school equivalency test, which I should not be making fun of. I have one too. But paying him a reported $200,000 a year and stationing him in a Hawaiian paradise. I mean, is that how a democratic republic is supposed to operate? Ideologues like Ronald Reagan, who supported outsourcing our national security, said that private corporations had the advantage over the government in every important way. They were more efficient, they were less expensive, they produced a higher quality product, but that's just a lie. We know that CEOs like Booz Allen Hammon's CEO Ralph Schrader are making tons of money. Even low-level tech workers like Edward Snowden are raking in way more than any government employee with a similar job. When you factor in the added pressure for shareholders' profits and new contracts, the idea of any sort of genuine greater efficiency in the private sector is laughable. If anything, there's an incentive not to be efficient, to keep the contract going as long as possible, to throw money at congressmen and lobbyists, to have lavish parties, to keep the bucks coming, and in the end, their product is an ever-expanding and unconstitutional snooping apparatus. The libertarian Reaganomics version of national security that is promoted by these guys is not keeping us any safer and is not any more efficient. In fact, it's the opposite. Private corporations are ultimately answerable only to profit, not to the law and not to we the people. And this increases the likelihood of abuses and eliminates oversights fundamental to democracy. It's time to drive a stake through the heart of the zombie of Reaganomics and put our national security back in the hands of government bureaucrats who make a middle-class paycheck, have good job security and a decent career path, and can be held accountable by you and me because they work for our government rather than a corporation, be it a corporation based in the U.S. or in some other nation. Our national security, the most essential part of our commons, must be wrestled out of the hands of this horde of for-profit companies that ring Washington, D.C., and put back into the hands of the governmental institutions that George Washington had 3 horses shot out from underneath him trying to create. Just like with privatization of our prisons, the privatization of our spy networks was a horrible mistake.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Please bring back my boring, competent, responsible government bureaucrats who used to run our national security. Then we'll be both safe and secure.